But what Eric said about being, the Libertarian Party not being a legitimate threat to political power, he's right about that. But let me tell you something. We got to be strategic in this. Right now, you don't want to be a legitimate threat to political power. You know who's a legitimate threat to political power? Julian Assange. And that's where you'll end up if you're a legitimate threat to political power. Those people who stormed the Capitol weren't even, but they could be used as an example, and they're going to ruin those people's lives. People will be in jail for decades. They will treat you like the people in Waco if you are a legitimate threat to this power. There's too much power, and we need to finesse around it and wake as many people up as we can without trying to have a direct confrontation with the federal government. That's just not going to work out in your favor.
So what do you guys say to the argument then that if you do this, so Dave, let's say you're right and you start reconstituting like a somewhat or even semi-remotely functional libertarian party, which of course I think is a worthy goal, that ultimately you just, okay, so you get 5%, right? Like 5% you triple or whatever Jorgensen got, what did she get? Like 1% or something like that, right? Like,
yeah, a little over 1%.
Okay. So you 5 times it, you 5x it, thus ensuring that the progressives who are only getting more emboldened, only coming for everything we hold dear, only coming for all of the good stuff that America has ever been about, you just ensure that they remain in power basically forever. What's your counter argument to that? Because I get that all the time. And by the way, there were people like higher ups at the Libertarian Party that wanted me to run this last time around. And not that I would have done it anyway, but I was like, that's the thing that just would, for me, is like, the idea that I would have helped usher in Joe with dementia, or at that time, it could have been Bernie or Elizabeth Warren. It's like, no, I just
Sure. So I get that point completely. And just let me disclaim what I'm about to say by saying that I do think it makes sense to be strategic. And I made this point last time me and Eric spoke. Like, I wouldn't, if lockdowns were raging on, I would not support primarying DeSantis in Florida, or I wouldn't support, primarying Rand Paul or Thomas Massey or something like that. Like, I think you do have to be strategic in when you do it. But my counter to this would be like, well, two things, right? So number one, just try to, let's all use a little imagination here and just imagine that Gary Johnson wasn't Gary Johnson and he was some really awesome libertarian candidate who was just great at explaining all of this stuff and couldn't be stumped because he knew more than Hillary Clinton and could expose Hillary Clinton and could handle. Yes, right. Like, let's say it was Harry Brown and could handle Donald Trump, could handle like that, like someone who was actually built for that moment. How powerful that could have been. What an opportunity there was there. What a force that person could have been. I mean, look, man, like, ideas can change the world. Thomas Paine just wrote pamphlets, like that you can do a lot of things by just really compelling people with some moving ideas. Now, in terms of to your point about getting Democrats elected, I mean, that is a real, risk and a real reality of the situation. But I would say this. The idea that Joe Biden, you specifically mentioned getting Joe Biden elected. Joe Biden ran for president twice before. He never cracked 1%. Yeah. He was a joke. He's an idiot. He's a bumbling fool. He's a plagiarizing, lying, just clown.
Don't forget the sniffing of the hair. He likes to sniff young girls' hair. Don't forget that.
Yes, he is. It's not just that he loves to sniff children. It's that after it became a scandal that he was sniffing children, he still refused to stop sniffing children. Like, he's got some issues.
He doesn't want to be a flip-flopper, man. You got to stick to your guns.
No, I do. I admire the consistency. But I'm just saying, so there was no chance that Joe Biden ever could have been elected president, except that Donald Trump, whether all his fault or not, ended in the most disastrous year in modern American history. Look, Barack Hussein Obama getting elected in the year 2000 or even 2004, age issues aside, would have been unthinkable. It's only because George W. Bush was such a failure that Barack Obama was able to get elected. My point is that Republicans have been doing a better job of getting Democrats elected and radical Democrats elected than libertarians ever have. So there is a threat of this either way. And the system we have now with the duopoly is that it's going to swing back and forth. So you're going to keep building up the power of the federal government, and the Democrats are going to get their shot at it eventually.
So